welcome to The Discriminating Gamer, the board game review show that really wishes that Charles Evans Hughes had won the 1916 presidential election. Couldn't have been worse than Wilson. Ladies and gentlemen, do you like pirates? Of course you do. Who doesn't? They're victims, maybe? Anyway, today we're going to take a look at a pirate-themed board game, Merchants and Marauders from Z-Man Games. Merchants and Marauders from Z-Man Games, 2 to 4 players are going to take on the roles of ship captains in the 18th century in the Caribbean. Now, players are going to start the game with a smaller ship, a sloop or a flute, and they're also going to have a captain dealt out to them. And these captains, of course, have different nationalities. They could be French, British, Spanish, Dutch. They're also going to have a home base. Now, there are a lot of different ports in this game, both in the islands and along Central and South America. Now, every ship is going to kind of have various stats, kind of depending on the ship itself. Maybe your captain might factor into that, but you're going to have different stats, your seamanship, or your cargo hold, your cannons, your maneuverability. All sorts of these things are going to be represented. A lot of them are going to be represented by cubes on your player board. Now, the goal of the game is to amass 10 glory points. There's different ways you can gain glory points. You can gain glory points by making a huge sale of a much-requested item at a certain port. You can gain glory points by winning combat. You can gain glory points at the end of the game for every 10 gold pieces that you have. Now, every time you get a glory point, you also get a glory card. There are different kinds of glory cards. For instance, there's specialists. Specialists are crew members that maybe have some unique skill that will really help you, either in combat or in other areas of the game. But there are other kinds of glory cards as well. Now, sometimes there are rumor cards. Sometimes when you're in port, you can try to get a rumor card. You have to, roll to try to get a success. If you get a success, you get a rumor card. And rumors are things that you try to prove are true. And you can essentially kind of then go on a quest to try to prove whether or not a rumor is true, which can result in you getting a glory point. Each round, the very first thing that's going to happen is the first player is going to draw the event card. And the event card is going to set up the kind of scenario for that specific turn. Sometimes it may be things like there's a storm, and if there's a storm, if you're at sea, if you're not in a port at the end of your turn, your ship's going to take damage. It may be an NPC player. It may be a Dutch, British, French, Spanish ship is introduced on the board, and if everybody's happy, if you're peacetime and you're not wanted, it's not a big deal. But some of the nations may be at war, and if they're at war with each other and you're flying a flag of a nation that's at war, that can be pretty problematic. Next, the first player, and then proceeding clockwise, each player is going to take 3 actions. And the actions are you can move into and out of sea zones and into and out of ports. You can scout. Essentially, there's different merchantmen throughout the board. If you take a scouting action, you can attempt to locate one of those merchantmen and then decide, do you want to take it on? Do you want to become a pirate? You can also use scouting actions for various other things like, proving rumors. Now, once you are in a port, you can take a port action. And there are a lot of different things you can do with a port action. You can do multiple things with a port action. But the very first thing you must do is sell. If you've got cargo and you want to sell it, then you have to sell first. Now, each port is going to have an icon for what's in demand there. It may be sugar, it may be wood, it may be spices, maybe tobacco, maybe a bunch of things. Well, what you can do is normally when you sell goods, you're only going to get about 3 gold coins for them. But if that item is in demand, you can get 6 gold for them. Now, if you have 3 items that match and they happen to be in demand in a specific port and you sell them, that's not only worth 18 gold, it's also worth a glory point. Now, also, each port may have a ship upgrade if it hasn't been taken already, and these are things that may help you, again, with combat or with maneuverability or increase your cargo hold, and you can buy that and add that to your ship if you'd like. You can also buy a new ship. There are different costs for different ships you can upgrade to a galleon or a frigate. You can attempt to recruit more crew. Crew's part of your stats. You can get more crew. You can go on a mission if there's a mission located there. Some of the event cards may put out missions, and if there's a mission, that's another way you can gain potentially money or glory points. Then, of course, you can buy from the port. If you want to buy from the port, you draw a number of cards. I think it's 6 cards, if memory serves. You look through them, and you can essentially spend some of your money to buy those cards to put them in your hold. You're going to buy kind of low, and depending on how many of a specific item are there, the price is going to fluctuate. Now, also, too, as I say, you have the opportunity in this game to play it simply as an honest trader, going around from port to port, maybe going on some of these missions and doing the rumors and trying to make money. Or you can become a bloodthirsty pirate. As I say, you can go after those merchantmen, which are represented by those tokens. You can attack them and attempt to take over their cargo and gain glory for that. Or you can attack your fellow players in the game, try to steal their cargo, and try to beat them. So if you've attacked a Spanish ship, either an NPC merchantman or an opponent who is Spanish, then when the big NPC Spanish ship comes out of the board, it's going to become a gun for you. And it's not going to be easy to defeat, and you're going to be wanted the whole game and running from it. So during combat between players, both players are going to roll their seamanship to see who is the better sailor. And that's going to give an advantage to whoever wins that roll dice, whoever rolls successes. Now, whoever rolled success in the seamanship die, they have some choices. They can shoot. They can fire their guns at the enemy. They can attempt to board their enemy. Or they can try to get the heck out of Dodge. They can try to run away. Now, you roll dice depending on the number of cannons you have. Maybe there's some other factors there. And then what you do is, for every success you hit, you roll a die, the 1, 2, 3, 4, and that corresponds to kind of the stats. And that determines where and how the ship got hit, what its damage is going to be. You can also use special weapons like grape shot, chain shot, grappling hook if you have upgraded your ship with those weapons. Now, the winning ship, if it's successful, it can attempt to plunder its enemy. It can take, gold, a lot of the rumor cards, glory cards, various other items they may have, and add them to their own ship. Now, it is possible you could die during the combat. If you die during the combat, you essentially lose pretty much all your stuff in the game except your glory points. You can come back in as a new character. Now, when you attack the NPC merchantmen, rules are slightly different. Essentially, they're going to play the cards in their cargo hold. Some of them are going to have symbols on them, escape symbols, attack symbols, and kind of through the card play, you're going to understand exactly who wins that battle. Now, also, too, critically, you can return to your home base at any time, and whatever gold you have, you can put it in your bank. You essentially each have these little treasure chests, which are really kind of cool, and you put your gold in there, and that keeps it safe. Because when you're at sea, theoretically, you can lose gold, but when you bank it there, it's safe for the rest of the game. Then at the end of the game, you're going to add up how much gold you've got in there, and again, for every 10 gold that you have, you gain a glory point. So that is essentially the game. You're going around the board, you're picking up and delivering goods, you're chasing down rumors, you're going on missions, you're becoming a pirate, attacking merchantmen or your opponents. So this is a sandbox game. There's a lot of different things you can do. You go through it, you do all these things, and then as soon as somebody believes that between the gold they've got on hand, their glory points, maybe what gold they got banked, they think they've got 10 glory points, they say, I've got it, I'm done. You go ahead, you count up everybody's score, whoever has the most wins the game. I first played Merchants and Marauders several years ago, and it's an open world game, it's a sandbox game, you can do whatever you want. And that can be a little overwhelming in terms of developing a strategy, but it's also kind of a game that maybe you necessarily don't play to win, you kind of play for the story, for the narrative. And there's a lot of games that are like that, and this is a wonderful narrative game. Now, it's also a game, too, that if you are just being that honest trader and everybody else is pretty much being that honest trader, this is a game where everybody's playing their own little solitaire game, and it's just kind of a race to see who can get the most glory points. And that's not bad, because the game itself with the events still gives you a lot of fun and interesting things to do. But there's not a lot of player interaction in that case. But again, there's that choice. Players can decide to become pirates, to attack each other, or in some cases help each other. And in that sense, the game really shines. When you can get that strong narrative experience and you can get player interaction, it's just a whole lot of fun. It's a good game without that, but when you add that conflict into the game, which is your choice, it becomes a really, really fun experience. Merchants and Marauders is fantastic. I love this game. I've loved this game since I got it, and I haven't played the expansion to it yet. I hope to soon. I really get a kick out of the strong story this game brings and creates. And, a lot of people have talked about how there's no definitive pirate game out there. There's all these pirate games and none of them are definitive. You know what? This is definitive. This is an amazing pirate-themed game. I love it. I love Merchants and Marauders. I can't say enough good things about it. I really enjoy it. Now, it can be a long game, and so this is a game you want to kind of, make sure you got plenty of time for. But if you go into it knowing that, it's not a problem. Now, because the game is this kind of open-world sandbox pick-up-and-deliver game, it's very similar to two games that are out there that have a very different theme, but are very similar. And that, of course, is Firefly the game from Gale Force 9 and Xia Legends of a Drift System from Far Off Games. They're in space, but they're still very, very similar in a lot of respects to Merchants and Marauders. I really like the pirate theme of this game, and it makes it kind of unique among those science fiction games. Now, there are a lot of rules, and it can get a little fiddly at times, but I don't think that in any way kills it or even really ultimately dampens the enjoyment I get out of this game. It's pretty well oiled. This is a game that every time I've played it, I just have a smile on my face, even when I lose. It's one of those games that's why I play board games. And that I can't think of any greater praise than that. So the recommendation for the discriminating gamer for Merchants and Marauders is buy it. Buy it. If you like strong narrative games, buy it. Thank you once again for joining us today on The Discriminating Gamer. As always, we ask you to please leave a comment for us on YouTube, on Board Game Geek, on our Facebook page, or on thediscriminatinggamer.com. We ask you to please like us on Facebook and subscribe to us on YouTube. We are The Discriminating Gamer, and if Merchants and Marauders were a movie, it would be rated R. Not really. Probably be PG-13. Please somebody help me on my feet again, and I don't know where I'm